If you thought things were crazy before, oh boy, things are about to get even crazier. Because here's what's going to happen. The 76ers are going to start their season tonight at 7:30 in Boston. By the way, welcome to the show. My name is Mark Farzy, and this is the Farzy Show. I just hope you're having just a beautiful, a wonderful Tuesday morning to this point. But here's what we got going on here. The 76ers tip off their season, not just their season, the NBA season tonight at 7:30 against the Boston Celtics, and they travel up to Beantown for that. So that's starting up tonight. The Flyers, who are already in full swing, are already 2-0-0 on the season. They're going to be taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight at 7 o'clock. Travis connected, got yourself a couple of goals already on the season. 3 to be exact. Pro V, +5 on the year already. Let's go. Let's keep that going. All right there, fellas. And then the Philadelphia Phillies at the wildly precise time at 8:03 tonight in San Diego, California. I will do my best to abstain from so many Anchorman references that will be rattling around in my idiot brain throughout this series. But at 8:03 tonight, Zach Wheeler will be on the bump against Yu Darvish. That happens tonight as the Phillies and Padres, the people in the group project who did nothing during the regular season but still got an A, those guys will take on each other, while the straight A students of the Dodgers, the Yankees, and the other people that we would like talking about, the Mets, the Braves, while they did amazing things. Oh, excuse me, the Yankees are still in it. They got rained out last night. But while they did amazing things, the Phillies and the Padres are like, hey, guys, we're here too. And now they're playing for a chance to go to the World Series. Sports are amazing. I will sum it up with Cliff Lee's famous phrase, that's baseball. We got all that and more to talk about today. And joining us to help us preview the Phillies Padres NLCS, Brett Myers joins the program. A triumphant return to the Farzy Show for Brett Myers. There was one thing in particular that I had to ask Brett Myers about. A little follow-up to our previous interview that we did back in March, and here it is. Brett Myers told you, the listening audience, the viewing audience of the Farzy Show, he said that he didn't want the Phillies to win another World Series. No, he didn't want that. And you know why? And it has to do with that 72 Dolphins complex of we want to be the only team, we want to be the last team to go undefeated, win the Super Bowl. Well, Brett Myers wants to be a member of the last team to win a World Series in Philadelphia. I said, hey, can you clarify that now? I mean, that was March. That was before anything good happened. Now a lot of good things have happened. Now you're 4 wins away from a trip to the World Series. How do you feel now? Brett Myers answers that question. Talks to me about Charlie Manuel. Talks to me about what exactly is a player's manager, because the thing we hear about Rob Thompson is the same thing we hear about Charlie Manuel. Player's manager. He's a player's manager. In my mind, I think I know what that is, but I'm sorry to break this news to you. I've never played professional baseball in my life. It's never happened. I talk about peaking in 8th grade a lot when it comes to my athletic career. I would say in the baseball world, I probably peaked in 4th grade. 4th grade. We were living away from the Philadelphia area for a minute. I was a second baseman, and I really started to get a good handle on second base in 4th grade. And then we moved, and that just set me back, man. I just couldn't recover. We moved back to this area. There are a lot better athletes in this area than where I was living at the time. And that was it. That was the end. That was the end of my baseball career, really. I mean, I played baseball after that, but I was on that upswing, man. I was a hotshot prospect. And we moved, and I just couldn't wrap my head around the new pitching I was seeing in the Philadelphia area, I guess. But in all seriousness, Brett Myers will break down the series for us. He'll talk about his experience, because Brett was having himself some good times. For those joining us early in the program here, this is Brett being on the Fanavision, the old Jumbotron at Citizens Bank Park over the weekend. And then this picture just melts my heart. You got Shane Victorino. You got Pat Burrell. Hide your ladies. And you got Kyle Kendrick there. The Kyle Kendrick thing is interesting. I didn't bring it up with Brett in the interview, but it is nice to see them getting along after Brett traded Kyle Kendrick to Japan, which is a prank that has been talked about a lot. And we talked about it the last time Brett was on, so I didn't bring it up this time. But it's nice to see them having a picture. They actually took a picture, just the two of them together too, which was also adorable. All is forgiven. Kyle Kendrick was never the same pitcher after that, but that's neither here nor there. So I just can't believe we're in this situation. I was reflecting on it last night that it's literally the phrase that comes to mind is shot out of a cannon. Because if they would have at least gone 500 in September, if they at least would have just finished the season really strong in September and in October they're fine, but if they would have finished the season strong, you would have been thinking, oh, yeah, here we go. The team of destiny. They got hot at the right time. They got the manager change, and everything was different in that clubhouse. The whole atmosphere was different. But because they had that very much subpar September, and it came down to really just not being as bad as the Brewers were in September, that's why he made the playoffs finally. If it was a little bit different, I would feel, oh, yeah, this team is meant to be where they are right now. But the fact that they struggled so much in September kind of tempered my expectations a little bit. And as I told you from jump, I wanted this team to make the playoffs. I wanted them to get the experience. Even if they would have drawn another team that may have swept them out of the first round, they may have said, might have pushed them aside. If they played anyone basically other than the Cardinals. And now it turns out they beat the Braves anyway. But if they would have faced anybody else, maybe they get embarrassed. Maybe they don't make the playoffs. But I wanted them to make the playoffs. And then they draw the Cardinals, and you're thinking, oh, my God, this is amazing. So they could beat the Cardinals. They totally could beat the Cardinals. And they beat the Cardinals. And it's like they Braves. And it's like, okay, go out there and let's see what happens. I'm not expecting much against the Braves. They're the world champion. They're a team that has had your number over the years, and this year they had your number late in the season, although you were 500 for a long time against them before September. And you get a little magic. Ranger Suarez wins game one. You even things you already steal the home field advantage, if you will, and then you take advantage of that once you got home, and then the fans and the guys on the field took care of the rest. And now all of a sudden, and really, the wheels started turning when Brandon Marsh hit that 3-run home run. The wheels started turning, thinking, "Oh my God, this team is going to be 4 wins away from the World Series. This team is going to go to San Diego to take on the Padres, a team that they won 4 games. They're 4-3 against the Padres during the regular season. A team that Zach Wheeler in his one start this year, who starts tonight, by the way, went 7 scoreless against them back in May. And Yu Darvish up and down 2 starts against the Phillies this year." But to me, I just can't get over the idea that nobody expected this. It really is a team that is shot out of a cannon to the point that they're just so close to another World Series appearance. And I know when you look at the money, you shouldn't really be shocked at what happened. But with the way the season started and the way the season is finished, it is just flat out amazing. When you think about the turnaround with Rob Thompson taking over, it's amazing when you think that you lost Bryce Harper for 2 months during the regular season, and the team rallied around each other at that point. And then you have gotten guys like Aaron Nola, who wasn't supposed to be a number 1 starter. Oh, at best, Aaron Nola is a 3rd or 4th starter in a good major league rotation. Well, Zach Wheeler's in this rotation, and Aaron Nola and him have been pretty much 1 and 1A or 1A and 1B as the starters, as the aces of this staff. And then Ranger Suarez, I was worried about him going into the season, about what he was going to be able to bring to the table in a full-time starter role. I know he ended the season well last year in that role, did a great job, but could he continue that type of trajectory, if you will? And boy, has he. He has exceeded my expectations. This team has done an incredible job to get to this point. The term team of destiny absolutely comes to mind. But when you say team of destiny, you also have to look across the way at a team like the San Diego Padres, who you could say a lot of the same things about. Now, they loaded up. The Phillies got nice pieces there at the trade deadline. Good God, the Padres loaded up. Hader came out there, Bell came out there, and, of course, Soto came out there. So they loaded up. But when you think about the fact that they weren't a 100-win team, you think about the fact they weren't up there with the other upper echelon teams, they were another wild card team like the Phillies. Team of destiny certainly comes to mind when it comes to the Padres. So you got teams of destiny going at it. And then you can't help but think of this. Just a few short years ago, we were in an off season and we were just submerged we were in way over our heads with the Manny Machado versus Bryce Harper signings. Who is going to come to Philadelphia? Who are the Phillies going to get? How is John Middleton going to spend his stupid money? Who is John Middleton going to spend his stupid money on? Phillies got Harper. Padres got Manny Machado. And now those two fellas face off in the NLCS, and it all starts tonight. Wheeler versus Darvish. Can't wait. 8:03. So your progression tonight will be Flyers at 7. Flyers Tampa. Sixers Celtics at 7:30. Then 8:03, game 1 of the NLCS in San Diego. There we go. That's the only one I'm going to get in there. It's the only reference I'm going to get in there. As I mentioned, Zach Wheeler 7 scoreless against the Padres back in May. Yu Darvish 2 starts against the Phillies. In Philadelphia, he won 7 scoreless. In San Diego, he won 6 innings, allowed 3 runs on 7 hits. That was back in June. And in his last start against the Dodgers, he allowed 3 solo home runs and actually won that game. So hopefully the Phillies get to him today. That'd be fun. Let's talk about how the Phillies just had a hit parade against Yu Darvish, and it was easy from Jump Street, right? That'd be the greatest thing in the world. So let's get into that. Brett Myers, we'll get more into that coming up in just a second. I do have some things I want to get to you guys from Nick Sirianni. I do want to give you guys a Sixers preview tonight, and I'll do that as well before I get to Sirianni. I have some high expectations for the 76ers this season. When it comes to what I am expecting, I think they are a lock to be a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. That's where I will draw the line, at a top 3 team. So when playoff seeding comes around, they'll be in that top 3 category. They could lock in a number 2 spot and certainly lock in a number 1 spot as the season goes on. Because I think what Daryl Morey did this offseason was add ferociousness, experience, and knowing what it takes to win a championship to this starting lineup when he went out and he acquired P.J. Tucker. And I said all these things at the time that he was traded, and now that are at the time that he was acquired, and now I'm looking at it just before the season starts tonight in Boston. And I'm thinking about what the Sixers needed. They need someone to say, this is what the rest of the league thinks about you. This is how the rest of the league respects you. Joel Embiid, this is how good you are. They needed an outside voice to come in here. And I think P.J. Tucker can be that guy. He can be that outside voice. He can be the guy that knows what it takes to win a championship from what he was around when he was with the Milwaukee Bucks. He obviously was a part of a pretty damn good Miami Heat team last year that bounced the Sixers. So when I look at this from a bird's eye view, I look at a guy that comes in here and brings in that knowledge of how everybody else views this Sixers team. And he comes in here with the knowledge of how to win a championship. And he also comes in here with what I think matters most, which is overall talent for what he can do on the basketball court, which is be a lockdown, shutdown defender. Basically, last year you were deciding between Danny Green and Matisse Thybulle. Who's going to be there? What defensive stalwart's going to come out there and be a guy in that starting lineup that you can rely on as a defended, the minister of defense, whatever you want to call it. Well, now you've kind of upgraded that with a guy that plays with a snarl about him, and that's P.J. Tucker. I love that. That's what the Sixers team needed. On top of that, you needed a bench. And the Sixers have now gone out there. Daryl Morey has now gone out there, and he got himself a bench. He went out there and he handled his business in the offseason. We talk about it all the time with guys on the court. But Daryl Morey went out there. DeAnthony Melton, Daniel House, Montrezl Harrell. Then he adds that to Paul Reed, who looks like your backup center right now. You got Shake Milton, obviously, George Niang, Matisse Thybulle coming off the bench. That's all well and good. That's all great. But all these guys make up one hell of a bench unit. Furkan Korkmaz out there, I forget. All those guys add up one hell of a bench unit. And that was a huge problem for the Sixers last year. They had no bench. They didn't have a lot to rely on. They have a lot of guys to spell Harden, Maxey, now Tucker, Harris, and Embiid. They didn't have those guys out there. Now you have guys that are good reserves that you can depend on to come in and give you good minutes. You never know when George Niang is going to get hot from 3. I want James Harden to do the same thing with George Niang that he did last year. Just keep shooting, baby. Just keep shooting. You stay beyond that arc, we'll take care of the rest. That's one of the things that I love the most about this team is that they're going to come into the season with a great bench. Overall, it's going to come down to that starting five. I've said this throughout the offseason, but I would love to see James Harden come in here and just not force it. That's where he gets into the turnover issues. That's where he has problems, yelling at the refs, complaining, all that stuff. I really think for this team to have an exorbitant amount of success, for this team to be the best team in the Eastern Conference, for this team to get that number one seed again, and I know we all have the scarring still. They haven't healed from the number one seed the last time the Sixers got it, getting bounced out in the second round against the Atlanta Hawks. But I truly believe the best version of this Sixers team will be we always talk about 3 and D. I need 3 and facilitate. That's what I need from James Harden. 3 and facilitate. Give me that. Maybe not 3 and D. He gets the defense isn't going to be there for Harden, but give me 3 and facilitate with James Harden. Give me a guy that's going to go out there, maybe get you 20 points, maybe get you 12 to 15 assists. Maybe he's setting up Shake Milton. No, shoot, Shake Milton. Maybe he's setting up Tyrese Maxey. Last time those two were confused for one. Maybe that's what I can get from James Harden. That's my ask. My big ask going into this season, because I think Maxey's going to be great. I think Joel Embiid is going to be phenomenal. I think you're going to have the up and down season again from Tobias Harris, which is just what we have gotten used to. But overall, and I told you what I'm expecting from PJ Tucker. But if James Harden truly is in great shape, and he looks great, and I believe all the stuff that went into the offseason, he looks great. He's healthy. If you listen to everything he says, he's healthy, he's ready to go. If all that's true, I don't want him to think about being the number 2 scorer behind Joel Embiid. I want him to be the guy that would love to go out there and get you 15 assists a game. I would love for him to be the guy to set up Joel Embiid in the post, set up Joel Embiid on the outside, at the top of the key, at the elbow, for him to work his magic. I'd love for him to be the guy to set up Tyrese Maxey, who looks like he has really worked on his catch and release and his shot overall from three-point land. I want to see him dribble, drive, penetrate, kick out, Tyrese Maxey, corner 3 to PJ Tucker. That's what I want to see from James Harden this year. I don't want to see the 1,000 dribbles to the top of the key. Where am I going? Where am I going? Try to penetrate, try to draw the foul, doesn't get the foul, arms up in the air, or turnover, whatever it might be. I want to see as less of that as possible this year from James Harden. I want him concentrating on knocking down threes. Step back threes are great. Keep that coming. You made your bread and butter off that. But I want him concentrating more on being the 3rd leading scorer on this team. I think it's going to be Joel Embiid up there at the top, and I think it's going to be Tyrese Maxey right behind him. That's the way I think it's going to fall in. And then I think Harden's numbers are just going to be off the charts. Whatever you get from Tobias Harris, the problem with Tobias Harris for me last year was he just wasn't connecting. I thought he was making good moves. I thought he was being aggressive. But then when push came to shove and he'd get 10 feet from the basket, pull up for the little jumper and clank, just wasn't finishing. The moves were there. The athleticism was there. The defense was certainly there in the playoffs last year. But, man, wildly inconsistent throughout last season. Yes, you need to get more from a guy making that money. You need to get more from Tobias Harris. And I don't know how he's going to establish himself when you already have Embiid and you already have Maxey and you already have a guy like James Harden. I don't know how you're going to just crack that when it comes to the scoring. But hopefully he finds a way to do it. I don't know how he does it, but hopefully he finds a way to do it. I think the biggest ask of anyone on this team is James Harden's style of play and his approach to how he's going to play the game. Because, hey, look, regardless of whether or not he is in some kind of great shape, regardless of whether or not he's 100% healthy, whatever it is, you're still talking about a guy who's getting up there in age. You're still talking about a guy that is no longer that MVP form that we saw in Houston, and that's already been said enough. Joel Embiid said it at the end of last season. You're starting out this year with a roster that normally you'd start out with after the trade deadline. So normally, here's what you got. You got guys that have gone through a full offseason together. You got guys that are going to be starting this regular season together. And you got guys that hopefully in a couple of weeks are really starting to play together as one cohesive unit. My expectation is another 50-plus win season for the 76ers. My expectation is that they flirt with 55, 60 wins this year. That's how good I expect them to be. The number 1 seed is not outlandish for this team. I know a lot of people have the scars from last time, but go get it. Go be the best team. I'm never going to be pissed off at a team that's going to be the best. So go do that. Even though in baseball, we just figured out through the regular season, that's not the greatest thing ever. But anyway, I did mention the Flyers, rather, 7 o'clock puck drop in Tampa today, so hopefully they improve to 3-0-0. The Philadelphia Eagles taking their bye week, and rightfully so, 6-0 on the season, just defeated a pretty damn good defense in the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm enjoying people talking about how much the win matters because you face a backup quarterback. Let me tell you what I think about that. I don't care. I don't care. Would it be nice if it was Dak Prescott and you beat him? Sure, that's great. This wasn't about beating Cooper Rush for me. I expected the Eagles to win this game. For me, it was more about how Jalen Hurts was going to play against this defense. It was more for me about how this offensive line was going to match up. You had more injuries. The offensive line continues to be a carousel now. For me, it was all about how you were going to be able to withstand this Dallas defense. You withstood this Dallas defense, and you got the win. You needed that late score, you got the late score. You had another big second quarter, you got the big second quarter. That's really how the Eagles have gotten to this point. When they have faced adversity, they have found ways to win. Was it easier because Dak Prescott wasn't there? Sure, absolutely. No one could argue anything different. The argument about Cooper Rush being the starter even when Dak was healthy was dumb. It was always dumb. They were managing games. You can't have all the success in the world by just managing the game unless you have the greatest defense ever. For me, when I watch the highlights of the game and I go back and watch certain plays, what it comes down to is just how good your offensive line, how deep your offensive line could be. And Jeff Stoutland, whatever he's making, it ain't enough because it seems like anybody that this guy touches can just go in and start playing offensive line and start defending that quarterback. I thought this was interesting as well. They released the locker room footage after the game of guys celebrating in the locker room. This is courtesy of the Eagles website. So tell me if this same thing jumps out to you. But this is Nick Sirianni after they beat the Cowboys in the locker room, and this is how the team was reacting to one another, including A.J. Brown, who was all excited about C.D. Deuce getting 2 picks for himself. Eagles locker room postgame.
No! Just get it. 6-0. Hey, CD. Hey, Chauncey. 2 of them things? Chauncey, 2 of them things? Hey, we got a long way to go still. All right, we still haven't played our best game, but we still got a long way to go. We got a lot to be thankful for. We're gonna work tomorrow. Okay, we're gonna work tomorrow. All right, because you're gonna be off the rest of the week. All right, so the schedule is we're gonna work Monday. We're gonna get these corrections because that's the biggest thing tomorrow. That we get better from this. All right.
It makes you feel good. Makes you feel good. Gets you right in the feels, doesn't it? The thing that jumps out to me is we are working tomorrow. Meaning they're working yesterday, Monday. They're 6-0. Now, before they go on their bye week, I love the idea that Nick Sirianni said we're working tomorrow. I don't think there's a better way to send a message to your locker room. I don't think there's a better way to send a message to your team than, hey, yeah, you're perfect, but we got a lot to work on. This team, 6-0 is great. It's wildly impressive. It's the number one thing. Right after that for me is how they seem totally unaware that they're 6-0. I know a lot of it goes into just coach speak or player speak, and no team is going to be like, well, we're 6-0, so we're perfect. I'm going to go take a 5-hour nap or something, like be lazy and go party, whatever. This team seems totally unimpressed with themselves. That's the most encouraging thing about this 6-0 team. This particular 6-0 team. The most impressive thing is that they are totally unaware that they're 6-0. It doesn't even. You have a quarterback who has entered himself in the MVP conversation, nationally speaking. I think you have favorites, and he's not the favorite, but he's in the conversation. He doesn't even want to talk about the record. Not even like an acknowledgement. It really is hilarious. And then you have other guys talking about how when you break down film, you got to make sure that you're just pointing out the mistakes and not just talking about how, we won the game. And they're hypercritical of themselves. Nick Sirianni was talking yesterday during his press conference at length about how They still have a lot of things they have to work on, things they have to improve upon, and I believe it. I don't think it's just things that we want to hear to make us feel like they're not going to be overconfident. It's funny. I remember the Carson Wentz era before Lane Johnson went out with a PED suspension. Carson Wentz's rookie year, I want to say. They started out like 3-0, and they had an early bye week that year. And I remember people talking about how this team was going to be feeling themselves, and they're going to come back, and they're going to be overconfident. And I was like, it's 3-0. It's a nice 3-0 to me is a nice start to the season. 6-0 is definitely eyebrow raising, a little bit of a different level. But I haven't felt like this team wasn't going to buy into their own hype more so than that 3-0 team. That 3-0 team, and this is a very specific story, I'll tell you. I was in Target, all right? The Eagles were 3-0. And I remember I just got done talking to people about the 3-0 Eagles. Are they going to be too confident coming back from the bye? The 3-0 Eagles, right? And I remember I was in one of the food aisles at Target, and I heard this woman's voice. And she sounded like an older lady. And she was like, I don't want to use the term nagging, but it was close to nagging. And she was talking to somebody, and she's like, you got to get lawn chairs. If you don't have lawn chairs, I don't know what you're going to do, but you need lawn chairs. Oh, and we got to pick up milk. Don't you forget to pick up milk. And it was like a barrage of things that needed to be done. And I'm like, damn, I feel bad for whoever she's talking to. And I don't think he'll mind me saying this. But I like, out of the corner of my eye, I see the voice of the woman gets louder. It's getting closer to me. And right by the aisle, this woman is walking right by me. And she turns to the man that she's speaking to keep on listing things that they need. And the look on the man's face, I look at him and I'm just like, that poor bastard. And it's Brandon Brooks. And I think it was his mom. Like, I don't even think it was his girlfriend or anything. And it was, and I'm like, oh, they're going to stay humble. They're not. There is no way they're going to buy into hype of being 3-0 with somebody like that in their lives. And sure, they had themselves a good season. Lane Johnson got busted for PEDs, and then the kind of wheels came off. They didn't have the depth at the time at the offensive line position. Halapoulivaati Vaitai wasn't ready to step into that spot, but like they weren't going to buy into the hype. That was what I took away from that Target experience. And this team, I haven't had those experiences with this team, but man, it just seems like everybody to a man on that squad is not reading the press clippings. And if they are about how great they are, they're like, we're not that good. But maybe we can prove how good we really are in our next game. Something like that. And I think they're going to have a fairly easy time with the Steelers when they do come back from the bye. I can be overconfident. They never seem to be overconfident. And you know what I think has helped them? The fact that they have needed late scores to get these wins. Like it hasn't been a 30-point blowout every game here. It's not a wildly dominant 6-0. It is scoring about, like I said yesterday, 70% of your points in the second quarter. That's amazing. And then, we need a late score. Or, we're down 14-0 against the Jaguars. Oh, we got to come back and do this. Oh, we're up huge on the Lions. Oh, wait, we almost lost that game. It has not been a dominant 6-0. It's been a scary 6-0 at times, especially the last two games. That I also think helps keep them humble. The fact that they haven't just blown every team out by 20 points. It's a big thing, obviously. Leadership goes into a lot of it. And I know the second quarter scoring has been a huge reason as to why this team has done a great job this year to be 6-0. There's two main things on the football field, tangible things, stats really you can look at when it comes to this team about how well they are doing. And 70% of their points, have come in the second quarter, which is astounding. But Zach Berman asked a question yesterday to Nick Sirianni, who was all Phillied up, by the way. Zach Berman asked a question to Nick Sirianni about why have they had so much success in the second quarter, and how do they duplicate that to maybe spread it out just a little bit. Here's Nick Sirianni.
I don't quite know, Zach. If I knew that, I would duplicate that in the third quarter, and then Les would stop asking me about that. So I wish I knew. The guys. The guys are doing a good job in that second quarter of, whether it's weathering the storm, like against Jacksonville, or if it was just, figuring out the different personnel groupings and how they're playing them and making plays in that second quarter. But there's no doubt, like we'll look at that this week and see what the heck's up there, and we'll try to duplicate that as much as possible.
Yeah. More of that. Whatever you gotta do. Second quarter success in every quarter would be really nice. So let's get into that. The other thing is turnovers. Good God, man. This team with turnovers is just bonkers. They have 2. They've turned over the football twice through 6 games. Twice. It's probably the biggest thing. They have 2 turnovers on the season. The Dallas Cowboys, by the way, have only given the ball away 3 times, and the Eagles have had 3 picks. Coincidence? I don't think so. And then on the defensive side of things, when it comes to takeaways, you've got 14 takeaways. This is the Eagles defense that was like bottom of the NFL, worse than the NFL at takeaways last year. A lot different story this year, and that's been a huge factor as to why you're 6-0. Nick Sirianni got pretty specific when it came to the turnovers. It comes down to Miles Sanders taking care of the football. It comes down to Jalen Hurts taking care of the football. Nick Sirianni spoke yesterday about how he wishes that a couple of the picks that Jalen Hurts has thrown this year, he wishes that he had a stat that he was credited, if you want to call it that, for the interception and not his quarterback for a bad play call. It's not how it works, but I understand what he's saying. But turnovers and ball security, another reason as to why the Eagles are 6-0. Here's Nick Sirianni on taking care of the football, and he even references a member of the 76ers who was playing catch before the game on Sunday night, and that's Joel Embiid. Here's Nick Sirianni on ball security and not turning the football over.
It is truly a full team effort. It's the emphasis of the fundamentals of ball security, that we preach on a daily basis. But, okay, so we preach it on a daily basis. We talk about it a daily basis. If you're carrying a ball around our facility, we don't care who you are. We'll tell you that it wasn't good enough. I think Embiid was playing catch on the sideline yesterday, and there was a couple things I didn't like about his ball security. If I would have said something to him. But you can't be around this facility and not be coached about how the ball is. But ultimately, the players got to go out and do it. And the guys that have touched the ball the most for us, Miles Sanders has been phenomenal with this so far this season, and it's a long season. We got to keep going on this, but Miles has had great fundamentals. Those guys are stripping at it hard.
I'm sorry, what? Okay. First off, knock on wood. Let's keep that going with Miles Sanders. Yes, please and thank you. Second, I love the idea of him talking to Joel Embiid about ball security. I find that hilarious. And thirdly, this is the most important thing because games are won and lost by turnovers. They always talk about the turnover differential, and teams that have that great differential are often teams that are really having success in the playoffs. And the Eagles need to keep that up. If there's one thing I can carry over from before the bye to afterwards, other than just flat out winning, it's ball security. And it's not giving the football away. It's not giving extra possessions to your opponent. That's the biggest thing. And you look at some of these close games. You look at that Cardinals game, for instance. Turnover here, turnover there. It's a totally different outcome in tight games. You want to talk about that last-second score that you've been able to get to remain 6-0? You want to talk about that field goal to put you over the top, or that long drive to sustain, to take the other team's momentum away completely? Oh, you're not having 17-play drives if you're turning the football over 5 plays into it. And the Eagles, well, at least for the Eagles to this point, once again, knock on wood, that has not been a problem. Last thing from 2 more things, all right, before we get to Brett Myers here. From Nick Sirianni. I am a big believer in leadership. I know sometimes it gets blown out of proportion, and this isn't high school. These are professionals, and regardless of what level you're at, I think you need someone to set the tone. I think you need someone to hold people around you accountable. Yeah, you'd like to think that they're all professionals. They're all going to perform at the highest level no matter what, because whether or not it's just, financial motivation or just overall success and competitiveness, you would like to think that professional athletes don't need that. That's not the case at all. They need that leadership. They need someone to hold him accountable. Darius Slay, if you remember, got emotional when he got named a captain. He'd never been a captain before. Very emotional when the team looked at him and said, "You're going to be a captain. We vote you in as a captain." That's pretty amazing. There was a story earlier in the year about Darius Slay helping somebody out with their car. I think it's a great story. Nick Sirianni brought it up yesterday. He was asked about what has kind of been the difference for this team, and he was later pressed on it. Reuben Frank, NBC Sports Philadelphia, put it out there saying, what's been the difference from a football standpoint with this team? How good have they been? What is the reason that they've been so good from a football standpoint? And Nick Sirianni did not get into X's and O's. He got into leadership. He got into the off-the-field stuff. And then Reuben Frank came back and said, well, yeah, but from a football aspect. And Nick Sirianni's response to that was, yeah, I know, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is it's bigger than just the X's and O's in football. Now, is there some coach speak in there with not wanting to talk about anything specific with the game plan? Absolutely. But here he is talking about Darius Slay and Darius Slay's impact on this locker room.
I don't talk about this enough because I think Slay is one of the best team leaders I've ever been around. And it may not always be a vocal thing, right? But it's just by his actions. And if one of his teammates needs extra work on the side as far as getting extra reps or getting the technique down of the corner play, Slay's there working with him. And that doesn't matter if it's Zach, his backup, or if it's Mac McCain, like a practice squad guy, Slay's there to help him. And if a guy needs if the guy needs a car or something, because Slay's done this, Slay's car is lent to the guy to make sure that he has. I mean, this guy's an unbelievable leader. It's just not on the football field. Or if a guy needs a place to go for Thanksgiving, I think that's where Slay had the guys over to his house last year. So it's this leadership, right? It's the leadership. You hear me talk a lot about the Jason Kelsey leadership and the Brandon Graham leadership. And it's a good opportunity to ask me about how the defense is doing and how the secondary is coming together, and Slay's a big part of that.
A guy that was as emotional. Come on. That's on me. I take 100% responsibility. You gotta love it with a guy like Darius Slay. And the guy that was that touched by just being named a leader and named a captain is pretty incredible. Last thing, I got to get this to you. I'm going to tell you right now, and people that do listen to me in the morning or watch me in the morning, do you drink coffee? Okay. Because I don't really drink coffee. I drink espresso. All right. And that's not to sound snobby. That's just that just to tell you, if I drink coffee, I'll drink coffee all day, nonstop. I'll just keep drinking coffee. And the minute my mug is empty, I go, I got to get more coffee. But if I drink espresso, I know the deal. All right. That's why I started drinking espresso. It's because I'll have the espresso and then I'm done. And then I'll drink water, usually the rest of the day. Well, no, the afternoon, I'll have a little siesta. Then the afternoon, I have a couple more espresso. And then I get back to my schedule. But if I drink coffee, I'll do it all day. If I drink espresso, I'll just, done, right? I won't drink it all day. I don't trust people that take no caffeine. And I don't think that Nick Sirianni says he doesn't drink coffee and then in his mind goes, because I drink espresso. I don't think that. Maybe he pounds Red Bull. I don't know. But in this, he was asked about his team. He was asked about playing Sunday Night Football and then what happens after that. And I'm always curious to learn other people's routines, other people's schedules. I am in no way, shape, or form an NFL head coach, so I'm not putting myself in the same realm. But I will say this. I worked primetime football for 11 seasons. After a game, you get back to your hotel. And after that, I just have to worry about catching my flight the next morning. Or if we played on the West Coast, if I'm catching a red eye back to Philadelphia. I can't imagine what it's like for a coach. If you worked any type of shift work where you had to do the late night, okay? And then you go home, the last thing I would do is go to bed. Like, you're amped up afterwards. So he got asked the question about what he did after Sunday Night Football. What's the routine for him and his coaches? And Nick Sirianni sneaks in a little thing about himself here, about how he doesn't drink coffee, which is amazing. And he also gives you an intimate moment of the family man that he is. Here's Nick Sirianni on what he does after Sunday Night Football.
Try to go to sleep after that, right? It's like having 10 cups of coffee and then going to sleep. even though I don't drink coffee. But it's like, how do you do that? And so sometimes you just sit there in bed and you think about things. And I know yesterday I know my wife doesn't like me doing this, but I woke up my son and just been like, hey, how was that baseball tryout? And he had a baseball tryout, and he's like, good. I really want to make the team, Daddy. I said, I want you to make it too. He's like, did we win? I said, you know we won. And so I woke him. I shouldn't have done that, but I woke him up. He had school today. And so we both we sat there and talked about the game for a second. It's just hard. It's hard to go to sleep there because you're excited. You're thinking about things that you could have done better. I know that's always, I know that's a part of the process that is necessary that you got to go through. To make sure you're getting better.
I love it. That's what you got to go through. But anyone who says I don't drink coffee, Jim Gaffigan, phenomenal comedian, has a great line about McDonald's. And he goes, have you ever told someone that you eat McDonald's and they give you the look of, oh, I didn't know I was better than you? It's just a funny line. When somebody tells me they don't drink coffee, my first thought is, what the hell makes you so special? Like, oh, I don't drink coffee. What did you say? Huh? You don't drink coffee? What's your secret to life and happiness and getting through it? Like, Nick Sirianni, first off, yes, he does seem naturally energized. And whenever I do my little offshoot Nick Sirianni, I don't even want to call it an impression yet, but whenever I do the Nick Sirianni, we're going to go, we're going to do it, and we're going to be it. Like, yeah, blah. That's when, all right. That's a guy that's just hyped up on coffee. So maybe he just crushes Mountain Dew. Maybe he crushes Red Bull. He might be a monster guy. I don't know. He might be a monster guy. I'm not sure. But I don't know anyone that is that high on life, and anybody that is an NFL head coach and they're not pumping coffee, anything. I don't know how you're doing it because your schedules are nuts, man. They are insane. But Nick Sirianni. Oh, and if you wake your kid up and they don't go right back to sleep, good luck to you. You're gonna need something in the following morning to deal with that. Let me tell you right now, I'm at Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right on Jewelers Row. Steven has everything at the perfect price every single day. One place, one price, the perfect price, online at IHateStevenSinger.com. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, this might be the latest. Oh my God, PJ, I'm sorry, brother. This might be the latest I'm getting to a guest here. Without further ado, this man was kind enough to join us back in March. He was at the Phillies games over the weekend. And I figured who better to talk to than a world champion when it comes to the Phillies being 4 wins away from the World Series. 2008 World Series champion Brett Myers joins us on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line. It's right now on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line, 2008 Phillies world champion pitcher, and let's not forget hitter. And the man is dabbling in the music industry. Well, he's been dabbling for quite a while. He's got his album out there. You guys can check it out. You know who I'm talking about. Mr. Brett Myers joins the show. Brett, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. Just got back from Philly, so we had a fun time up there.
It certainly looked like. I mean, I was following you on the social media, of course, and they put you on the Jumbotron, which is great, Fanavision, whatever. This picture, I'm going to flat out, man, that you guys in 2008 were the first championship I got to experience in Philadelphia. So I saw this picture, and it just immediately warmed my heart. How great was it to see those guys again?
It was awesome. I'm not like big with the picture stuff. I have my phone. I usually don't take the pictures. I was just happy that there was people there to capture those pictures. I mean, because I guess, I didn't really I guess the social media stuff, trying to post it or whatever. I'm just happy that, my wife and friends of ours were there to take those pictures, because I would have never had them. I would have remembered it, but it was good. A lot of hugs and with the guys and whatever, and just enjoyed the atmosphere. I told the wife it was kind of a whim that we went up there on Tuesday. I said, we were watching the game about the 5th inning. I said, we should go up there on Friday and go watch the game. And I just kind of explained it to her. I was like, I got to feel that playoff Philly atmosphere again. It's something as a player, you saw it. And then, I mean, the stadium was shaking up there after Hoskins hit that home run. And I was just like, this is insane. Like when you play, I guess, you're focused on what you got to do out there, and you kind of don't get to experience it from the other side and get to see that energy and everything. And I can tell you right now, going into those 2 games there, I really felt like they were going to give the Braves a hard time, because I knew what kind of energy they could bring to a stadium, and having that 10th man out there was, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm glad that I didn't have to experience that on the other side as an opposing player in a playoff atmosphere.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it in 07 and 08, that 10th man type of mentality. I heard JT Realmuto speak about it over the weekend to my buddy John Clark of NBC Sports Philly about how that energy, it's no joke. Like, home field advantage, especially in Philadelphia, is a real thing. And you guys felt that, through your run here in Philadelphia.
Right. I was telling my buddy, who unfortunately was a Braves fan. I know I shouldn't be buddies with a Braves fan, but at least at that time. But I was telling him, I know his team lost or whatever, but I said, you could go to Atlanta and watch a playoff game, and it'll never be like this. It'll never be, and nothing against the Atlanta fans or anything, but there's just something different about the Philly fans and during playoff baseball that I can guarantee. I was telling them as well that those players down there that have never been to the playoffs have no idea what's about to happen, and it really makes you elevate your game when those fans are cheering as loud as that and having the stadium rocking the way it was. So I'm sure they probably talked about it after the game too, of how electric that place was.
Certainly. You mentioned the Hoskins home run, and I was there Friday. From a pitcher's perspective, I don't know if there's a greater gauntlet dropped than intentionally walking a guy like Kyle Schwarber to get to the next guy. Right. As a pitcher, what's going through your mind? Are you thinking, okay, now it's put up time, like I got to make sure that I make my pitcher? What are you thinking?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Hoskins was struggling so much through the series and everything. I thought it, on paper, it was a great move, but at some point you got to know that those guys are going to step up. Something's going to happen. You know what I mean? I know Schwarber, like the top of the lineup, has been struggling a little bit, and man, they came through in a big way those 2 games there in Philly.
Mm-hmm. How was Pat Burrell? How's Pat Burrell's first pitch? Did you give him any advice?
Yeah, no. So I talked to him about it, and he said, I said, man, you just lobbed it in there, dude. He goes, well, I didn't know the Fanatic was going to be catching it. So he kind of like turned around, and he's like, oh man, it's him. I don't want to hurt him or throw anything good, And I was like, I would have just threw it to the backstop and laughed or something like that. It'd been fun.
Why not?
Had fun with it or something. He's like, well, I mean, he's like, I didn't want to hurt the guy, He catches it bare hands with his gloves on, so it's funny.
Do you see any similarities? I mean, this team is this team that we're watching right now in Philadelphia is a over the luxury tax type of team. You guys had a lot of, up and comers on that team. You guys had a lot of guys that obviously came through the system, yourself included. When you look back on Cole Hamels, obviously Ryan Howard, I don't have to name the roster for you, but do you see any similarities in attitude or anything like that between the 08 team, your Phillies, and of course this team now? Well,
I think that the main thing that really helped us, like we went in 07 and we come up together, like most of us. So we kind of knew exactly each other's personalities, I guess you would say. And it took us a few years to click, In 07, we saw the atmosphere and we're like, we'll be back next year, no problem, And 08, 09 went to the World Series, and we had a bunch of good players, and we just knew how to play together. I think that once the manager change happened, I kind of started seeing them play. And I'm not saying it was anybody's fault or whatever, but in order to win, you don't have to have the best team. You just have to have a team, like they play as a team, and not like take selfish at bats. And I know games changed a lot and everything, but certain things that I watch, I'm like swinging first pitch down 3-0 and a solo homer is not going to do anything right there. But, like I said, games changed. That they start playing the first game they beat Atlanta. I watched a lot of unselfish at bats and watched them bunt the ball, watched them get guys over. And I'm like, that's winning baseball right there. And I thought that down the stretch, they started to play better as a team and not just rely on the home run, like most of these teams do these days, because the game's changing, so it's about the long ball. Yeah. So, but watching that small stuff happen, I'm like, that's good fundamental baseball. And I think that had a lot to do with how, going against Max Fried, like, come on, man, he's one of the best in the game, so, and they, 4 straight hits, moving runners over and everything like that. And I thought winning that first one was a big step because I knew when they got to Philly, if they were tied, those Braves were going to be in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. When a lot of people talking heads like myself will say, a manager in baseball is going to be responsible for maybe 10 wins, maybe 5 wins, maybe 5 losses, maybe 10 losses, whatever. As a player, when you look at managerial changes, whether it's Boa to Charlie Manuel, or you played for Terry Francona, you played
right.
for Robin Ventura in Chicago. When you look at those guys, how many wins or losses is a manager really responsible for? Do you think?
I think that it comes down to protecting the bullpen for at least in my days or whatever. I've tried to go out there and at least go 6-7 innings to keep the bullpen fresh. I would like to call myself like an innings eater. Like I always took the ball, always wanted to be out there. If you pulled me out of the game, sometimes I hated Charlie for pulling me out of the games, but it was just competitive fire, I guess you would say. But I think it comes down to not wearing your bullpen out. And again, the game's changed, man. They want these starters 5 innings now. They're out of there. If you pull me after 5, I'm mad. I was upset that they pulled Nola out after the hit because I would probably been kicking and screaming to stay into that game, but you don't want to show up your manager. You can probably go talk to him afterwards and stuff. I know I've had those times with Charlie that I've just went in there and said, leave me in there. I'm good, or whatever like that, just have those closed door meetings with him. But, and I know Nola's that type of competitor. He didn't want to come out of that game, but, certain things like that, man, that you look at from the outside and everything that you might not agree with, but it might be the best decision. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I was always told to stay away from the manager when I was a young kid, like stay away from him. So I didn't kind of like really pay attention to much of that stuff other than the days that I was pitching. They write the lineup, they play the numbers, they play what's hot. And if you know that stuff and but you also got to stick with what got you there too. So sure. I think Rob Thompson's done a great job right now. Obviously, turned the team around. Nothing that, I think I saw something Girardi was saying the other day that they had a tough stretch playing all these tough teams, and then he got fired type thing. So, so who knows, man? It does come down to those decisions being made, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, and you just got to own up to your decisions, So. I do like the way they've been playing the game this past month or so.
One of the things that always gets brought up with Charlie is being brought up right now with Rob Thompson, and that's the player's manager mantra. Right. When you hear that, the player's manager, how would you define that? How would you attempt to define a player's manager?
So Charlie just kind of let us be us, but if we got out of line, he would dang sure tell us about it, like after a game, before a game, whatever it was. And it wasn't just us individually. He just kind of let us be our own people. He didn't try to micromanage our personalities. He just let us go and said, "Go do whatever you got to do to help us win the game. But if I got to reel you back in, I will. So there was plenty of times where we saw Charlie really, really ticked off at us, and it would come like we might lose like 3-4 in a row or something like that, and he didn't like the energy or something like that and stuff we were doing or whatever. And he just have to put us back in our place, and that's fine. But he wasn't yelling at us every single day. Not saying that happened with other managers I had, but Charlie just let us be us, and he told us that too. He came in spring training, and even he's like, "This is y'all's clubhouse. Y'all can do whatever the heck you want in here. But if I feel like something's getting out of line, you got to clean your room. You got to get in there like your parents would do. Like, all right, your room's messy. You need to clean it up, right? So." So that's kind of the way I took it for Charlie, managing us, basically, and he's easy to talk to too, like it's he's busting jokes with you all the time. So it's kind of almost like he's our manager, but he's going to have fun with you too,
The last time you were on, I remember you said that I think Charlie threatened. I don't know if he threatened or made a joke about I'd trade all you guys for Giancarlo Stanton. Was that a threat or a joke?
I don't even remember that.
Oh, okay.
But you know what? If whatever he had to say to get us back in line, I was good with, man. I didn't care what he said. It all comes down to this. All comes down to winning.
Mhm.
You know, you want to win, and you have fun when you win. I played on some of the worst teams in baseball, 100-team losses, man. But and coming through the Phillies organization early in those years where we just miss a playoff or be so bad we didn't have a chance, they introduced the wild card, then we start having chances, and then we make it. So being able to experience that and go through those years made it a lot sweeter when we did win. And it's not like that we're not out there trying to lose. You know, I mean, who does that? Why play the game if you go out there and expect to lose? You know.
One of the things that a lot of fans brought up, Brett, was the idea that they didn't want the Phillies to make the playoffs because they would just get embarrassed. And in all honesty, not that I thought you guys were embarrassed in 07 by any means, but I thought that was a valuable year to get to 08. Sure, it was a 3-0 sweep. Okay, so what was the importance of 07 to 08?
So 07 was getting the monkey off our back, I guess you would say. Not just because coming through from when I got caught up in 02 to that year 07, like we knew what was at stake. I mean, we knew the fans wanted it. We wanted it too. You know, we knew the drought was there and stuff, and that's one of the reasons why I went up this past weekend, because I know it's been 11 years since they've been in the playoffs, and I know how bad the fans want it, and that's one thing that we felt in 07 getting in there. And then 08, it was like, all right, we've been here before. We know what to do. We know what it takes, you know. I mean, we were basically in the playoffs the last month of the 07 season. I think I threw like 8 of 9 days at one point. I didn't care. I was like, give me the ball. And it would come down to the last day, whether or not we were going to get in the playoffs or not, you know, or win the division type thing. So we were technically, in my opinion, in the playoffs for a month before we even literally started the playoffs. So, and we ran the Mets down. So, I mean, a lot of energy goes into that, obviously, but once you feel that, and we ran into a buzzsaw of Colorado too. I mean, they had two good young arms, Baldo Jimenez and a big lefty, both throwing 98 in the shadows at Citizens Bank Park. I'm sitting there going, man, this is tough, you know? So just I mean, the hitters were even saying it's tough, man. And you'd never seen those guys. Usually, you know, if you had like a veteran guy on the mound that we have a lot of video of or something, you could be able to have a track record of how he pitched you before. But these young guys, you know, you look at most of young guys' first starts, they come to the big leagues, they dominate because nobody knows them. So it's got to keep making adjustments. So once we got into in 07 and we lost, it was just like, this gave us a bitter taste, you know, of kind of let down, you know, worked so hard to get there and then kind of got knocked out in the first round. And then the next year it was just game on like that. I don't think there was anything holding us back. I know Jimmy said we're the team to beat and everything. And we felt that way too. Nobody said anything to Jimmy about making those comments. I can tell you that, because we all felt it. Nobody said, Jimmy, what are you doing? Like you're jinxing this or something like that. Right. No, we actually all felt that way. Like we knew what we had, and we been to the playoffs as younger guys. And I think I was like 27, you know, turned 28, been in the organization, you know, my whole life and knew what it meant to the organization, and everything lined up for us to win the thing. So, and, you know, like I go back to, might not have the best team on paper, you know, or names. People say, oh, how did we win a World Series with Hamels, Myers, Blanton, and Moyer? You know, like they're not like stars, or like the Holiday, Oswalt, Lee, you know, those days when they had the top 5 dudes in pretty much baseball, and they didn't win anything, you know. So it's kind of not always about that, you know. It's like who steps up in certain situations, and all those guys are great pitchers, man. I wish I had the career they did, but sometimes it doesn't happen, you know. So it's a tough game too. The ball bounces. Right.
By the way, speaking of those great pitchers, real quick, this is a little fun fact I wanted to bring up to you, because I didn't even realize this, and excuse me for not realizing this before. The year you were actually in Houston at the time, but the year 2010 when Roy Halladay won the National League Cy Young Award, did you even know that you finished 10th?
Yeah, I did, but it was late. I had a pretty good run that year. And it's funny because I'm pretty sure I got 2 hits off of him that year too when I faced him.
Of course, you remember that.
But it was funny because every time I played the Phillies, like I wouldn't get a hit ever. And then when I played the Phillies, I got 2 off of him that year, I think, and then 2 off of Oswalt. And they're both with the Phillies. So like every time I faced the Phillies, I would get a hit. And I'm like, I don't even know what's happening right now, honestly, because I'm facing 2 of the top arms in baseball history, probably, you know, with the stuff that those guys done. And I found it funny and amusing. But yeah, I had a pretty good run that year. I had like 31 consecutive starts of going 6 innings or more. So the fact that, and hard to get noticed on a team. It's always hard to get noticed on a team when you lose 100 games, you know? So, so that's, and I don't know if that's how many we lost that year, but it dang sure felt like it every year. We lost 100 games there.
Well, you won.
They traded everybody.
Right. You won 14. You were 14-8 in 33 starts, and you had a 3.14 ERA. Now, just real quick on this list, incredible. Okay, Halladay, Wainwright, Jimenez, Tim Hudson. You guys had some great battles, Phillies and Braves. Josh Johnson, Roy Oswalt on that. Brian Wilson, Heath Bell, Matt Latos, Tim Lincecum, Bronson Arroyo, and Matt Cain with you coming in there at number 10. Just just wild to think about that.
So that
go ahead.
That year, honestly, so I had that. Take that back. I didn't know I had 33. The last start of the year, I had a sub-3 ERA, and I ended up giving up 5 runs to the Reds, and that was my 33rd start. We weren't playing for anything, but I was trying to go out there and go 6 innings. They come and pull me out after 5 2/3 because I gave up a grand slam to Brandon Phillips on a changeup. Why I threw that pitch, I don't know. But I had a chance to have a sub-3 ERA for the first time in my career, and I blew it.
Oh!
I might have finished higher than 10th if I had a sub.
I'll have to go back and look, see how the other guys did their last start. Brett, 2 more questions for you. Here's one. Does this Phillies team, very simple, does this Phillies team have it? Do they have a strong chance? Do they have the it factor to win a championship?
Well, I can tell you what, man, with Wheeler and Nola, I love them. They're my 2 favorite. Well, my favorite player is Alec Boehm. I don't know why, but I just like the kid, you know. So, and I tell people that it's my favorite guy. Let's examine that. Let's examine that
for just a second. Why Alec Boehm? Is it the flow? Is it the honesty? What is it?
No. Well, I do like the honesty was cool, but I just like the way he plays the game. He doesn't try to do too much, uses the whole field at the plate, you know, and it makes some crazy plays at third. I know he'll make his errors too, but I mean, he makes some really good plays. Like I'm up there, obviously I spotlight him on the team. Like, you know, the big names, but I just like the way Bone plays the game and good approach at the plate, 2-strike approach, seems to always put it in play at the right times, you know. So I kind of like that. He's not going to go out there and hit you 30 bombs yet. I believe he will down the road, but I just like the way he hits, you know, and plays the game. I just, for some reason, I like that stuff, you know.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
But yeah, I think for them making it, I honestly, I was like, no way they win game 1. I mean, let's look at the matchup there. Ranger Suarez versus Max Fried. I'm probably going to lean towards Max Fried there. Game 2, I was like, oh, Wheeler should have that one. You see how the game against Kyle Wright, and I'm going, no way Wheeler loses that one if you think that way, right? So we're 1-1 either way, however it went. But then it goes Suarez wins, and then Wright wins against Wheeler, and I'm just like, this is why you can never predict baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you never know, especially playoff baseball. You have no idea. Like, I loved Nola facing him. I knew Strider was coming in after having 3 weeks off from the oblique. That was going to be tough. Young kid, never been in that atmosphere before. I felt like they would get to him, and they did. And they got hot those 2 days in Philly, and I know why. Those fans have a lot to do with that, man. Like, a lot to do with it, because that energy and everything, it's hard to lose it with that energy. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to not step the game up, and the only thing that you don't want to do is try to overdo it and overthink it and everything. Just let the adrenaline take over and go play your game, you know. And it was great to be up there. It's great to watch that atmosphere, and I hope they do keep going. It'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it'd be nice for the city of Philadelphia.
Okay. Because this is my final question to you. The last time you were on with me, you had talked about how you hoped you were the last one. Now,
yeah.
maybe a little tongue in cheek.
I still feel that way. But if they do it, they do it. I'll be happy either way. You know, I was happy they won. I just, but I do, you know, selfishly do feel that way. You know, because I was sitting up in the seats and everything, and I said, you know what? if they win it like in 10 years, and these guys come back, they won't have tickets for me no more. Those guys are getting the tickets. You know what I'm saying? So they forget that guy, forget these 08 guys. We just got a new world champion, So it's I do hope that I do hope that they win it. I like when the Eagles win. I like it for the fans of Philadelphia. Because I don't know, man. You saw the stadium Friday, man. I was like, how do you not want their hometown team to win? How do you not want them to win? But wait, how passionate those fans got and how loud they got. I'm telling you, after that home run, I was standing up there and the stadium was shaking. And I was just like, this is incredible. There's only one place in the country that you would want to play. And it's got, for me, and it's got to be Philly in playoff baseball. Like they might not, they'll come out to support you during the season, but when that playoff hits, man, it's a different animal. It's a different animal, and I love every bit of it. So,
when you were playing elsewhere, just real quick, when you were playing elsewhere, did that ever come up? Playing in Philadelphia, would people talk about playing in Philadelphia?
Yeah, they like it's a tough place to play, stuff like that. I'm like, no, it's not. It's the best place to play. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, look, man, if you're honest with yourself, and those fans know when you suck, and I know when I suck too. Like I always was like, just you're not, if you don't make excuses and you just tell them, hey, listen, I suck today, then they're going to like you more. When you own up to stuff like Alec Boehm owned up to what he said, he hates that place or whatever like that. I don't think he meant that, that way. At that time, I'm like, yeah, I bet he does hate that place right now, but I don't think he felt like that overall, So
Gotcha.
There was times that I hated the place too, just because I sucked so bad and I deserved it. But at the time, I was able to tell myself and tell them, yeah, I'm booing myself as well because I know I wasn't doing my part. So
gotcha. When can we expect the next Backwood Rebel album coming out? When's that happening?
Man, I don't know yet. I haven't really had much time to even sit down and think about it. Been traveling so much with my older boy playing, travel ball and going into his junior year this year. So he's committed to University of Florida. So, and he's trying to do big things. He wants to play at the next level. So we'll see what happens. I'm trying to give him every opportunity I can give him at this point and focus on him instead of, putting out more music right now. I'm not saying it won't happen, but like I said, just got home from doing him and then ended up in Philly this past weekend. So, when I get some time to take a breath, I'm pretty sure I'll have a lot to say on the next album.
Fantastic. Brett, appreciate you taking the time to come on the show again. A great return by Brett Myers here on the Farzy Show. And good luck to your son. Good luck with the album. And my best to your family, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Brett Myers joining us on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line. How much fun was he, huh? How much fun was Brett Myers? I like the idea of Pat Burrell not wanting to hurt the Fanatic. That would be and Pat Burrell throws the first pitch and breaks a paw, a hoof, a hand of the Fanatic. I don't know what it would be from the Galapagos there. But great catching up with Brett Myers. Really interesting conversation with him. I swear he told me that Giancarlo Stanton was the guy that Charlie Manuel would trade the whole team for. But it doesn't match up because Stanton debuted in 2010. Myers was already in Houston. Now that I'm trying to think, maybe it was Albert Pujols. I don't know. Try to figure it out. Miguel Cabrera, maybe. I'll have to go back and watch the previous interview. It was somebody Charlie Manuel would trade the whole team for. By the way, so that start that he mentioned in 2010, where he finished 10th in Cy Young voting. So Brett Myers went into his final 2 starts of the season with a 2.76 ERA. He then allowed 5 runs to the Pirates and 8 runs to the Reds. Wah, wah. Come on, man. I feel bad for my man. I feel bad. Thanks, Brett Myers, joining us on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line. Let me tell you guys about Manscaped. Use promo code Farzy for 20% off at Manscaped. Use promo code Farzy for 20% off Freestone Farm CBD. Freestone Farm CBD, including Hindu, half Hindu Super CBD, which is half Hindu Kush, and 21%. FreestoneFarmCBD.com. And how about Mojo? Mojo's incredible. Download the Mojo app to your phone right now. Jalen Hurts stock continues to rise. $49.85, up a share over 43% since the start of the season. Come on, people. A.J. Brown, trending in the right direction. It's just absolutely incredible. Unbelievable right now. He's trading at $18 a share. That makes him the 16th most valuable wide receiver out there. He's incredible. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts. Now, here's what's really interesting. So Miles Sanders' stock is actually falling. So now could be a good time on the Mojo app to buy Miles Sanders. Buy him low before he comes back. You can sell him high. That's how the Mojo app works. They got 300 skilled players, over 300 skilled players in the NFL, from your quarterbacks, your wide receivers, your running backs to your tight ends. And each player has a share price. So you can buy low, you can sell high, whatever you want to do on the Mojo app. Download the Mojo app to your phone right now on iOS, available in New Jersey. Go to mojo.com for more information. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older. Mojo is an incredible app, and everything rises and falls in real time. So make sure that you guys are following all things on the Mojo app right now. Let me tell you right now about the great people at PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, to enhance your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsNation.com. Kevin, let's get to the chat check. Kevin Sprolis, what's going on? Oh, sorry. Surapedes. I always mess up your name. I'm sorry, Kevin, but welcome in. Mally, what's going on? Falconator 51. What happened to the first stream? You guys are throwing me off. We messed up the first stream a little bit, and it wasn't our fault. It was autocorrect's fault. I'll let you in behind the scenes. We put in Brett Myers, and for whatever reason, it said Pretty Myers. I'm not saying that Brett Myers is not pretty. I'm just saying I don't think he wants to come on the show and be referred to as Pretty Myers. All right. So, yeah. Morning, Mally. Good morning, Mike Fuji. What's going on? Sean Gillespie, how are you? It's a busy day, Fuji. Fighting Phils, Sixers, Flyers. Jim Grassman, it's a shame not much going on in Philly sports. Dan Schwartz, howdy, y'all. That hello was inspired by Brett Myers. You know what Brett Myers is when you're messaging with him? Brett Myers is a 10-4 guy. 1 o'clock tomorrow, 10-4. I like that. I'm going to copy that guy. Copy that. I don't know. Useless information, but there you go. And we can't beat the Fathers in a 7-game series. That should be 4-3 against them this year. I think that's an omen. Stone Cold. Oh, that's great. Never wanted Manny. Oh, good for you, Mally. That's good. Love when Stone Cold beat Vince McMahon over the head with a bedpan. Those were the days. That is the most WWE sentence. With a bedpan. Mihai Sanchez, good morning, Farzy and everyone. Last weekend, Philly beat the Cardinal teams. This weekend, Phillies beat nationally obnoxious fan base teams. I like that. Braves, Cowboys, all right. Maybe Yankees and Steelers end of October. I like that. April, good morning, April. Oh, I think we had some bots come in here, and PJ, shut that the hell down. Can't believe the playoffs mediocre during the season, but Sean Gillespie, can't believe the playoffs. Baseball's weird. World beater during the playoffs, mediocre during the regular season, as they say. That's a baseball. Dan Schwartz, I render the interview you did the other day with the Dallas guy, RJ Ochoa. He was saying that it was almost becoming a quarterback controversy because of the way Cooper Rush was winning. Now they cry that he's a backup. No. I will say this. Dan, he talked about the conversation piece that other people were saying, because I asked him about it, about whether other people thought Cooper Rush should then be the starting quarterback. And he's like, the disrespect to Dak Prescott is just ridiculous. That was his point. But he did reference the conversation that other people were having, serious conversation other people were having, although he and I didn't take it serious, that Cooper Rush should remain the starter. Pepperidge Farm remembers? What? That's random. I'm missing something there. Sean Gillespie beat Atlanta. Still can't believe it. I know, man. It's crazy. Dan Schwartz, I'm going to call out from work today. Hey, I'm not going to be able to make it in today. I got the meats. Yes, because I watched some of the Cowboys game and ate at Arby's. Oh, this is great. My Holy King. What's up, my Holy King? Sean, shopping with your mother. Scary. It might be. Yeah, the Eagles won. We're all happy the Eagles won. Sixers should win. No Udoka. Yeah. Ever since the stories came out about Ime Udoka, I just can't. Like, Udoka sounds like a sexual term. Mrs. and I, one thing led to another. Udoka. You know what I mean? Little Udoka going on there. May I? He may. Anyway. All right. That's enough. Sixers are back. Alyssa, what's up, Alyssa? Sixers are back. Start the NLCS party time tonight, Alyssa. Brooklyn versus Philly. Can't wait. It's wild. Oh, what do you got? 6 of the 7 games you have to start the season are all against playoff teams for the Sixers. It's going to be bonkers, man. My Holy King, anxiety problem. No coffee for me. Alyssa just says, hey, guys. Hey, Alyssa. Nick needs that Freestone Farm CBD promo. April, you're absolutely right. My Holy King, is it too early for a cheesesteak? It's never too early for a cheesesteak. Oh, there you go, April. You're on me and you on the same wavelength. Never too early for a cheesesteak. My Holy King, I'm in New York. It may be too early for a cheesesteak. Nah, throw an egg on it. Paul Keen. What's up, Paul? Keen. Paul? Behind on the feed, coffee is too good, but there's a fine balance. Nothing worse than the shakes. Yeah, I'm telling you, ever since I made the full-on switch to espresso, which is like 8 years ago, it's time to party. Jeff, what's up, Jeff? Awesome Phillies sports trifecta today. Sean Gillespie, exactly. Own up to your stuff. Love Bohm. How about Brett Meyer saying that Alec Bohm is his favorite player? Dusty, what's up, Dusty? Welcome to the chat. Nice to have you. Nice to see you guys. Everyone in the chat, you guys are great. All right, Morning Rush, brought to you by Sky Motor Cars. Sky, if you ever wanted an extended Farzy show, I think this is the latest we've ever gone. And I know PJ's got hustling to do over there, so let me do this. Again, Sixers tonight, 7:30 start time against the Celtics. Then, before that, 7 o'clock puck drop Flyers against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Phillies, 8:03 start time. Zach Wheeler against Yu Darvish. It's going to be a fun one. I'll say this one more time for the 76ers. And before I do that, there's just one thing I have to make sure of. But I want to give you a quick 60 on the Sixers. If you would indulge me kindly while I do that, that'd be great. But here's what I'm thinking for your 10-9-8 76ers. Last year, the Sixers won 51 games. I am expecting the Sixers to win 56 games this year. That's my number for the Sixers, 56 games. If I have to say the major difference I need from last year to this year, I think we all know roster-wise, I think the major difference is the fact that you have that deep bench that I talked about earlier in the show. I think that Daryl Morey did a phenomenal job making sure that you had a solid bench going into the season. There'll be moves throughout the year. Matisse Thybulle didn't get the rookie extension, so he might be moved. I know a lot of people won't be too unhappy about that. But I think aside from completing the roster in terms of filling out that bench and making sure you had people that were reserves that could come in there and you could trust in key situations, PJ Tucker is a huge addition to this lineup. We talked about the defense earlier in the show. We talked about what he could bring to the table in that regard. But other than that, it all comes down, I think, you got the bench. You got the championship on the bench right here. You got the championship in your starting 5 right now with PJ Tucker, a guy that knows how to win, right? A guy that knows how to play great defense. Has that snarl about him. Danny Green had a lot of the same things, the championships. He had the defense and all that, but he didn't have that snarl that PJ Tucker's got. But you look at a guy like that, more recent championship, obviously. But when it comes to the number one thing that I think needs to change in that starting 5 is the mindset of James Harden. We'll see if it actually happens tonight. We'll see when it all really counts tonight, we'll see just how much James Harden has changed, how much Tyrese Maxey has improved in the offseason, because it all starts counting tonight with the 76ers in Boston at 7:30. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. James Hyder produced program, did a wonderful job. This is a Buzz Sports Entertainment production. Hey, have a wonderful night. 7, 7:30, 8:03 NLCS. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Let's go Phillies. Let's go Flyers. Let's go Sixers. Talk to you guys tomorrow. See ya.